Okay, you will have questions. Everyone does. So, I have the questionnaire in front of me, and I'd like you to have that in front of you as well, because I don't have them on slides. So what I'd like you to do is take that out, make notes if you want. This is an electronic questionnaire. It'll be available to you in the next day or so, I'm told. Apparently there will be a blast email indicating when it's available, so it's not quite available exactly this minute. But on that electronic copy, there will be, for every one of these blanks or lines that you see on the form, there is a gray box. And the gray box, you double click on it, and it will give you an option of either checking the box, filling in the detail, or selecting a drop-down menu. And so if you just have to type something in, you can type pretty much anything you want to, and it'll just keep expanding. If you're going to fill it out manually, you can still do that. I need to give you a little cheat sheet on some of the drop-down menus, but that will be provided to you if you're going to be doing it manually. You can do it either way. So that'll be available. So the first information is who you are, what's your name. If you have a problem with that, talk to Gary. He'll give you a name. Hope you like it. When you completed the form, your official job title, your department, work phone, and site. Now, what do I mean by site? Your location site. So I guess there are a couple of sites. There's this main campus. That's a site. Put down main campus. If you have an off location, off main campus site that you're at, put that site location name. Your email. Time in current position in years. Now, you don't have to be really exact. 8 years, 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, 1 year, half a year. And the reason I'm asking you this information is if I have two people in the same job title, one person has been here for 3 months and one person has been here for like 8 years, and I need to know something about that job, a little bit more than what I know from the questionnaire, I'm probably going to ask the person that's been here about 8 years, because they're likely to have more of a full knowledge of all of the duties and responsibilities that encompass that job. So that's the only reason I'm using that information. The next information, your immediate supervisor's name, official title, work phone, email, and their boss's name, job title, work phone, and email, in case I have to talk to either of those people about what your job is. Now on item 2, position summary, this is a 2 to 3 or 4 sentence summary about the purpose of your duty, of your job. And I'd like it to be a summary. This is the kind of answer that you would give me if you came up to me at the end of this meeting and said, I'm a program coordinator. And of course I would give you this puzzled look, like what is that? And the next couple of sentences you would say, this is what I do, da-da-da-da-da-da. That's what I want here. Some people find it helpful to do this after they've completed the rest of the questionnaire because it's a summary. And what we want to get from this summary is a very brief capsule of what your duties and responsibilities are. You don't have to repeat all of the things you do, just essentially what the job is all about. So that we can walk away from that reading those 3 or 4 sentences and say, okay, I kind of get a sense of this. Okay, it's more like this than like that, for example. That's kind of the sense that we want to get. So if your job title is field engineer, and then you put down field engineering stuff, okay, I'm going to say, okay, I've got to get into the engineering realm, not accounting, not IT, not HR, not English, math, science. I need to think in these terms. That's the purpose of that question. On the next page is supervisory responsibilities. And if you have people that you supervise, in other words, you sign their performance evaluations, then there are 2 items here that might apply to you. If you don't supervise, in other words, you do not sign performance evaluation reviews, then check the first box. If you do, however, sign performance evaluations, then I want you to tell me how many people. So if you've got 10 people that you assign performance evaluations, then under head count you put 10. Now let's say that they are only half-time people. They only work 50% of the time. Well, that's 5 full-time equivalents. Full-time equivalent is a full-time employee working all year long. So check the box or boxes that makes the most sense. In item 4, the organization chart, we want to understand how your job fits within your department. So in the first box, you put your supervisor's job title. In the box just below where it says your position, we want your job title. If you supervise people, then the next box is below your job is the job titles that you supervise, not people's names, job titles. And then if they have subordinates, those job titles. Now we've tried to provide a fairly generic organization chart. Sometimes it doesn't work. If it doesn't, you can supply whatever organization chart you have, either as an attachment or inserted in this space. But we just need to get a sense of where your job fits within the hierarchy of jobs within your department. Now on page 3, item 5, essential duties. These are perhaps the most critical component of this questionnaire because this tells us what you do. And we're going to ask you several questions on this form. First of all, in the left-hand column it says essential duties. What do you do and how do you do it? In the next column we're saying when you do those things, what kind of decisions do you have to make in order to accomplish that? And then in the next column, frequency. Daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, or occasionally. And then about what percentage of time do you spend on that? When I'm talking about percentage of time, I'm talking about the entire year. So over a course of a whole year, what percentage of time do you spend on that activity? Now, most people aren't very good at that, so I'm just going to expect that there are going to be estimates like 5, 10, 15, 20%, that sort of thing. I would find it highly unusual if you said I spend 13.35% of my time on X. Most people can't do it that well. I can't. Now, I only want you to record those things that take more than 5% of your time. And the reason I'm asking you to do that is because if it takes more than 5% of your time, it's probably a key component of your job. There are a lot of things that probably you do that everybody does that are not key components of your job. But they come along with it. Nobody else will do it. You're the only one around who will, or knows how to, or is willing to. I get that. But what I'm trying to understand is what's the key essence of your job? And this space, these 10 spaces, you are going to help me understand that. So for example, I've got, in my job, I do 1,000 things like everybody else does. There's only 2 things which are essential, but I do 1,000 things. Let me mention some of those 1,000 things. I make sure that the office is locked, that the security system works, that we've paid those bills, the computer system is up and running, the server is good, our computers are up to date, the cleaning people have cleaned, the carpets are clean, the supplies are available, paper, pencils, paper towels, coffee, that people are assigned to the right engagements. In fact, on any given day, you will find me like the other day, changing light bulbs, up on a ladder, changing light bulbs. I'm probably also the only one in the office that actually refills the copy machine. And when that little red light goes on the general phone out at the front desk, I'm the only one who takes those messages off that phone. Okay. Now, if I put all of those things down there, you would think that I was some sort of, I don't know, just handy person, go-to person. But that's not what my job is. I do it because nobody else does. I have 2 things, like I said. I work with clients like this to make sure that we set up a good compensation system, and then I seek more clients in the future so that we can all get paid. Those are the only two things I really do. That's what I'm responsible for, and if I don't do that, then the business goes away. And if I don't describe that to you, you don't understand what I do. Now, there's a lot of detail in those two things, but I've got to describe what those two things are. All the rest of the stuff is baggage. It's immaterial. I do it? Absolutely. Do I get paid for it? Probably not. Should I get paid for it? Probably not. Should I get paid for those two things? Absolutely. That's what I want to know about what your job is, those essential key characteristics. Now, there's a couple of examples here to help you. Prepares monthly newsletters by gathering information, writing copy, editing, and preparing for publication. And what kind of decisions do they have to make? They have to decide what articles to include in that monthly newsletter. They need to determine how it's going to be laid out. What sort of editorial changes are made? What sort of graphics go best with those articles? Those are decisions that accompany preparing that monthly newsletter. It's done on a monthly basis, 25% of their time overall. There's another example, performs inventory spot checks and monthly counts and of supplies in the warehouse. And the decision they have to make is when to check on those supplies. So these are the kind of examples that I want you to put down here. In the column that it says select, there will be a drop-down menu that gives you the various frequency options. All you have to do is select one of those options. Now, on the next page, what I want you to do is I want you to think back on those duties and responsibilities, and I want you to think, what do I need to know in order to do that work? So, for example, if you are putting together payroll, or checking payroll, what do you need to know in order to do that? Well, you probably need to know the payroll system. You probably need to know pay rates. You probably need to know the classification of every employee and what pay grade they're assigned to. Those are the things that you need to know. What sort of skills do you need to have? You need to be good at math. You need to have some attention to detail, because nobody likes to get the wrong paycheck. Certainly they don't like to get less than what they've gotten before. They're happy to get more, but they probably know that they probably shouldn't have gotten more, and you've got to correct it in any event. So those are knowledges and skills that you need to know in order to be a payroll clerk or review person. So go back to those duties and responsibilities and say, here's duty one. What do I need to know? What are the skills that I need to have in order to do that? And in order to help you understand the difference between knowledges and skills, let me give you this example. Knowledge is generally you can test. Paper and pencil. Oral questions and answers. Skills you can observe. So here's what happened years ago. We had a windstorm in our city, well, in our state. Blew down a bunch of trees. The city decided to help its residents reforest the city. So they said, you can buy any one of these trees for half price. So we said, great. We bought 12 Colorado blue spruce, or Black Hills, one of the two. Well, now I got to plant the things. They're 3 feet tall. They come balled and burlap. They're heavy. So I got to dig holes. We have clay soil. If you ever tried to dig in clay soil sometime in the middle of summer, it's kind of like shoveling some, hard concrete. You can't do it. So I said, I'll go rent a backhoe. So I rented a backhoe, dragged it home, read the manual. Have you ever sat on a backhoe, looked at a backhoe? There's all kinds of levers, and they're all close to each other. And then there's a bunch of pedals. So I read this manual several times. I'm educated, I can figure this out. Okay, this lever does that lever does that, that's pretty cool, I get it, got it, perfect, had the knowledge. You could have asked me any one of those levers what it does. I could have answered the question, passed the test. I then sat on the backhoe, started it up. Now I wanted to put these trees all in a row, about 6-8 feet apart. Well, it was obvious I had no skill at operating this backhoe, because not only did I just about wipe my wife off the planet, But the holes, some of them were large and deep, some of them were shallow and small. They were not necessarily in a perfect straight line either. So it was obvious I had no skill at this. I got better as it went on. I got better, more skilled. But there's the difference between knowledge and skill. So apply that in this. You don't need to use all 10 spaces. Some of the duties that you do may require the same knowledge and skill. All I need to know is basically what you think it requires. Now, in item 7 on education, I'm asking you what kind of educational requirements would prepare you for the job that you're currently holding at the entry level. Not necessarily what you have, but what it would take if you had to hire somebody new, off the street, so to speak, what sort of minimum education requirements might be necessary. And then what field of training would that be in, if there is a specific field that you need to have. On page 5, question 8, there is a similar question on experience. What's the minimum level of experience to have to perform the job at the entry level? You know, that entry level where you're just kind of fumbling around learning the job, not quite very good at it yet? So I'm not asking you what you've got now, but what you think would be essential minimum qualifications to enter the job. Now, some jobs, question 9, some jobs require you to be certified or licensed, generally by the state or some certification agency, that you have to have in order to do your job. Dietitians generally have to be licensed. Nurses have to be licensed. Lawyers have to be licensed. So if your job is one of those that you have to have a license or a certification of some kind, then tell me what that is. Please don't use abbreviations. I might not know what it is. On item 10, machines, tools, and equipment, what I'm asking here is machines, tools, and equipment that is unique to your occupation, that you need to have some training in, and not all jobs within the university have to know how to do. This includes not only physical machines, tools, and equipment, but also software. So, for example, if you have a particular payroll system, or a particular inventory system or information system that you use to manage your operation, let me know what that is. I would not include Microsoft Office, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Access, those kinds of things, or the copier or the fax machine, or personal computers. Those are pretty ubiquitous at this point. But these are only things that are unique to your occupation and not everybody needs to know how to operate, but you need some special training in. Okay, next page. Question 11 is perhaps the toughest one for most people, so what I'm going to try to do is explain this. I want you to just tell me what are the common decisions that you make in your job. So, for example, one of the common decisions I make in my job is whether I'm going to propose on a potential client or not. Very mundane decision, but it has an impact about what I'm going to do next. Another question is, what am I going to charge? How long is it going to take to do the work, and how much am I going to charge to do the work? Mundane decisions, every day, happens every day. That's what I put down here. Now, for you, it's probably going to be different. What I'm not looking for are those exceptional, very rare situations, rare and unique decision-making things that you do. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for just everyday, normal, mundane stuff. Give me 2 examples. The reason I'm asking you this question is because this helps me understand more about your job. It gives me some flavor. Now, for example, I had a person who filled out this questionnaire some time ago, it was probably 10 years ago or so. They said, I'm the purchasing director. I said, okay, that probably makes some sense. I can understand kind of what a purchasing director does. And then they get down here to the typical kind of decisions they make. I was expecting to see things like setting policy for purchasing, identifying vendor qualities or criteria or selection criteria, form and format for contracts, that sort of thing. Now, what I found here was a description of what they did. I when to order pencils. Well, that put a whole different spin on this job title. And so all of the other things that I'd read about this job seemed to be kind of unusual when the person says, well, this is what I do, I order pencils. So I had to go back and dig a little bit further. Now, that kind of situation isn't always the case, but it's kind of an example of how that answer to these questions helps me and helped clarify the job. On item B, below there we have which, when making decisions, do you do most often? Check only one. Routinely check with your supervisor, follow standard procedures, use some discretion, or create and implement new solutions. So check the one that best applies. And then item C, there's a number of options there. You can check all of the options below, or the ones that apply, in terms of whether you plan and schedule the work of others or set goals and objectives and so on and so forth. Now, on item 12, page 7, there are some physical factors that may affect how you do the work. And the reason for this, we're collecting information for the HR department so that they can classify jobs based on the physical requirements of the job to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now, the answers to your questions on this item and the next item will not affect how your job is classified or the job title or any of that. It's simply because we have the opportunity to ask people whether your job requires you to stoop or bend or kneel or listen or speak, and how frequently and how important that is to your job. We thought we'd take this opportunity to collect this information. So again, what we'd like to do is have you tell us how often this occurs and how important it is. And then whether it's sedentary, light, medium work, very heavy work, so on and so forth. Now, again, these drop-down menus, you'll hit the button there, or hit the select there, and it'll get you a drop-down menu. If you're doing this manually, you'll not be able to see the drop-down menu, but we'll give you a key so that you can know what to put as answer in those areas. All we need to do is, you need to get a hold of Gary to tell him that you're going to do it manually, paper and pencil kind of form. So there's a couple of questions on that item. On item 13, working conditions on page 8, again, this is not going to affect how your job is classified, it might affect how it's paid. So we're asking for conditions which you have to manage or work around in order to get your job done. These may be hazardous conditions, intense noise where you need to have some equipment, atmospheric conditions, environmental conditions, excessive travel, those kinds of things. So let us know if those things apply. Now, the bottom question there, environmental, which talks about disruptive people and imminent danger and threatening environment, these probably do not apply to your coworkers. Item 14 on page 9 is additional comments. If we have not asked you enough questions, you think we've missed something, you've got an opportunity to say anything you want to at this point. Then we'd like you to sign this and date it. You can, there's a gray space here on the electronic format. All you need to do is type in your name. That's adequate for us. That will serve as a signature. Now, once you've gone through the questionnaire, we want you to pass it on to your supervisor electronically. They will take a look at it and review your answers to make sure that they agree, that you haven't forgotten anything, or that you've made sure that they're clear and understandable. And they have this section, this table that they can use. If you are a supervisor, I don't want you to change anything that the employee has stated. I want you to simply fill this piece out if you want to make some clarifying comments. And then share your clarifying comments with the employee. You should both agree or disagree that those comments are appropriate. Supervisor signature, again, you can type your name in and date. Second level supervisor, so your supervisor, and then cabinet officials have the opportunity to also review and sign, and then the employee's signature or typed in name once again. Then, get that to HR by February 7th. So we're giving you till January 24th to get it to your supervisor. They will have then a couple of weeks to review it, make any comments they want to, get the final signatures, your agreement or disagreement as the case may be, and then getting that to HR. HR will then make sure that we've done, gotten all of the questionnaires and box them or put them in an electronic file and send them to us as the case may be. So we expect to have a questionnaire from every job title within the organization. If you are working in a job that you're doing exactly the same thing as someone else, and you want to fill this questionnaire out together, and you all agree that you could fill it out together, go ahead and do that. Just make sure that we have all of your names on the forms so that we can track individual names. I'm not telling you you have to do it that way, but you can if you want to. So that's an option for those jobs that are in multi-employee job titles. Here's the way to complete this questionnaire. Do it in 20-minute increments over 3 or 4 different sessions. First session, take 10 or 15 minutes, fill in your name, maybe the working conditions, some of the easy stuff, and then set it aside. A couple of days later, take it out, maybe fill out some of the essential duties. Put that aside. Take it out a third day. Maybe then you can complete the questionnaire, maybe you do it in the 4th time. But do it over 3 or 4 sessions, 20 minutes at a time. And here's what's going to happen. From the time you first look at the questionnaire to the time you've completed it, your mind will work with you. You will start remembering things about what you do and the importance of various duties and responsibilities. And you will be able to fill out this questionnaire much easier if you do it that way. The toughest time is if you just sit down and do it from start to finish in one sitting. What happens with those individuals is they get it done, they feel relieved, they send it on to their supervisor, and then once it's in HR, they say, holy cow, I forgot a huge part of my job. I got to include this. Okay, so then we're all backtracking. Or it's in our offices, reviewed the jobs, and we've done all of our work, and you say, whoops, I forgot to tell you that I do X, Y, and Z. So give yourself a little time. You've got the time to do it. Take it in a couple of increments, and let your mind help you complete the questionnaire. If you want a copy of your current job description, go to HR if it's not online and look at it. Use it as a tool. State things in very simple English. Try not to be excessively flowery or trying to find keywords. There are no keywords. Generally, if you're trying to pull the wool over our eyes, we're going to see right through it. We look at a lot of these throughout the years, so we're pretty perceptive in smoking out the BS. So if you're giving it to us, we're going to find it. Just give it to us straight. Try not to use abbreviations, because we want to understand what you're saying, not try to decipher it. That should do it. Any questions? All right, I don't see any. Do you have a couple of comments? FLSA. Oh, all right. FLSA issues. Gary keeps reminding me of things I didn't cover. So there's this nasty law by the feds that talks about whether you get paid hourly or salaried. It's called the Fair Labor Standards Act. We call it the FLSA. That's an abbreviation, obviously. And it applies to every job in every organization. And we need to make sure that you're classified either exempt or non-exempt. Those are the two categories. We need to do that correctly. So we're going to look at that when we look at your job description and your questionnaire to make sure that you're classified correctly as either hourly or exempt, salaried, correctly. Now, it generally applies to, generally most organizations have it accurate, but there are some jobs that are not accurate. And it may mean that you are moved from a salaried position to an hourly position because you're really a non-exempt job, and should be paid on an hourly basis. We want to make sure that we get it right, because the consequences for getting it wrong are pretty severe, both to the university, well, to the university essentially, in terms of fines and back pay. So we're going to look at that. What else? Oh, yes. Now, we're human. So when we look at words on a paper, we understand them from our perspective and from what you put down. Now, occasionally it happens that we misinterpret those. We classify a job too low or maybe too high. And so there's going to be an appeal process at the end of the project. When everything's done, and we all know what pay grade and job title and all of that sort of, and job description everybody's assigned to, if you think we've done you wrong, got you in the wrong pay grade, the wrong job title, the wrong job description, there's going to be a process where you can appeal, have us take a second look. We'll have you fill out another form. It's a lot briefer, to tell us why and what facts we need to consider. And then we'll take another look at it and render a second opinion. But occasionally we do misinterpret or misunderstand a job, so this is an opportunity to make sure that we get it right. One more point. There was a question earlier about what happens if we get quote-unquote downgraded, or we're found that we're overpaid, whatever those terms mean. It has never been my recommendation that someone's pay be reduced. So the best that can happen out of this is that your pay stays the same or it goes up, funding available. Nobody's pay is going to get cut back. So those are I never make a recommendation to cut somebody's pay, because you got there not by your efforts.
Thank you, Jim. This is Jim indicated. We're getting an additional web page attached to the HR website. The form will be posted. You may have noticed there is some editing marks on this version of it. It's now been cleaned up, and the final version is the version that will be posted. And it's been videotaped, and the video will be posted as well. For anyone, colleagues you may know who is off campus or been unable to attend one of these sessions, or if you just want to watch it again, share with your friends and family. Everyone loves watching videos like this. And John promised me the director's cut, so we're going to get a good cut. Those are my last comments. Any questions for me or for HR? And we will be communicating via public announcements and the webpage progress on the project, and we're off and running. Thank you.